Hi guys, it's Heather. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to go through a deck that I have owned for a very, very long time and that I have never, ever read with. It's an out of print deck from what I can see from having a look online. I can't find any other YouTube videos about this deck or any, there's not an awful lot out there. It seems like it, for one reason or another, it wasn't a very popular deck and I don't think it was in print for very long. But I'm going through the decks that I have at the moment that I have never used and trying to use each one. So this one is going to be on my list of decks that I at least try working with and see how I get on. It's the Celtic Tarot by Julian de Burgh, cards illustrated by Mary Guinan. I think it was created in 2000 and by 2009 definitely it was out of print because there's conversations about it being out of print on Eclectic Tarot forum. It is a book, I mean its recommended retail price was £19, but I've had this deck since like maybe 2004 and I'm pretty sure I bought this from the works and probably spent less than £10 on it. I definitely didn't spend this much money. I'm not keen on the box. The box is not, I mean, it's not a bad box, but as boxes go, it's not the best box. I don't really like these papery inserts. And the box is actually breaking, even though this is a deck that I never ever use. It was published by Rider Books. And as I say, it's one that sat on my shelf or it sat in a drawer actually for years and years and years. And then when I started working with tarot early last year, like really working with tarot, I got them out and put them on the shelf. So it moved from the shelf, from a drawer to a shelf and still was never used. And I think when I did my current deck collection video, I wasn't even sure at the time if all the cards were in it. They were. It's just that they'd all got mixed up together. So the book is pretty basic actually. The book has no pictures at all, apart from at the back where it has some readings and it shows you the card layouts. But there's no pictures. The paper is not nice. It's a pretty cheap book. I mean, I don't care overly, but it's not nice paper. So as you can see from the contents, we've got an introduction, which is how to use this book, Celtic mythology, what is the tarot deck, and then a reading. Then you've got the section on the cards, and then at the end you've got the astrological influence of the court cards, what is a tarot reading layout spread, the Celtic cross spread, the Celtic cross layout, sorry, a sample Celtic cross reading, and then a little bit about how to keep tarot reading records at the end. The layout for the major and the minor arcana are pretty similar with one very small difference. So with the major, you get this sentence underneath the title, which kind of sums up the underlying energy of the card. So for the Hanged Man, for example, you get rest now and let everything find its own balance. For the world, I am co-creator of my world and all I wish for I can have. And then you get your keywords, the upright meaning, the reverse meaning, a relationship meaning, and then the story of the card. So how the card links to a story within Celtic mythology. And then for the minors, you get exactly the same, except you don't get that sentence, that initial summing up of the card sentence. Otherwise, upright, reversed, relationship, and story of card is all still there. So you get quite a lot of information about the minors as well as the majors, which I like. So it's not a bad little book, as I say. I've never really read it. I've never really spent any time with these cards, but it is something that I hope to work with. I bought these because at the time I was really interested in Celtic mythology and I really thought that Celtic goddesses and gods and deities were going to be the deities that I would work with because of my own ancestry and things, but that's just not how it worked out. So just goes to show. So on the backs you've got this lovely Celtic knot. They are actually this yellow, you can't really see it in this video very well, but they're like this pale yellow here that you can kind of see. Next to it, this isn't white, this is an even paler yellow. So the cards are yellow with these bits of red and blue in the Celtic knot. It's very, very light and very, very faint. Cardstock is not bad. It's actually pretty good cardstock. I'm impressed with the cardstock, considering the paper quality is horrendous. The cardstock quality is really good. It is an RWS inspired deck, and for the most part they've kept the same names for things. They've made some occasional changes, but not many at all. I love the artwork. I love this simple style. I think the simplicity of this style is one of those things that either draws people in or pushes people away. People either love this kind of style or they don't. And personally, I do. I really, really like it. I find some of the changes throughout the deck interesting. So for example, the Fool. When I look at the Fool in a deck normally, the Fool to me looks like he's moving away from something. He looks like he's leaving his old world behind and is moving forward to an unknown destination, because actually it's more about leaving where he is than going somewhere new. Oh, sorry. Ugh. Whereas in this card, he's clearly going somewhere. He has a destination in mind. His journey has a very specific end point, which it is a very small difference, but something like that is that I find very interesting. Oh. And then, you know, the High Priestess, we've got no pomegranates, we've got no pillars, we've got no books or anything like that. It's the same name of the card and the same kind of style, like idea, but the depiction is very, very different. And I think this is where these kind of decks interest me. These decks that have a theme that they then have to make fit the cards, and how they do that and the choices that they make. And these are where I find these interesting little things. And this is, again, why I want to do this series on symbology and looking at these different cards and how they've changed. So instead of the Hierophant, we've got the Druid. And how losing that symbology might change the, you know, the way that you would necessarily read that card. Maybe it wouldn't, I don't know, but that's something that I really want to explore next year. They are, as I say, very, very simple. I'm really sorry, I keep knocking this camera. I will get used to this, I promise. So again, Justice, we have Justice. She has no sword, she has no blindfold. You know, normally she's got one eye covered and one eye uncovered. So we have none of that. We have Pupil in the background, which is something you don't often see in a Justice card. There's lots of little changes that potentially change the meaning of the card. The Hanged Man, there's no tree, he's in a cave. Death, you've lost the king and the priest and the girl, I think you quite often get in the Death card. They're all taken out. There's no horse in the Death card. All again, very, very subtle changes that don't necessarily change the meaning of the card, but I just find very interesting. So the Devil is the horned god, which is a choice I do not understand. I've read the book and they talk about this is clearly Cananus and the horned god, and you know, they talk about how Christianity came along and demonized him and turned him into their version of the devil, which, you know, okay, a little bit not sure about that, but why they would choose to then depict the horned god as the devil in a deck that's supposed to be about Celtic mythology and not Christian mythology is a choice that I don't know, I didn't really get it. I didn't really get it, but there we go. I'm not keen on this moon card. It's the only card that I look at and I think, I really don't. I like the dog and the wolf in the moon card, or even two dogs, whatever. I think that the moon card needs to have water in it so that it can, you know, you can, for that connection to the emotions and things. I think there are lots of things in a traditional moon card that I believe are there for a reason that I like that isn't in this card, and I'm not so keen on this card. I'm not keen on the choice they've made there. Now, I haven't, as I say, read the book or about any of the myths that they've used for each card. So there's possibly connections there, like the moon card, for example, that right now I'm just not seeing. This is just my impressions based purely on the imagery and nothing else. So they've kept the suits the same, the wands, swords, cups and pentacles. They haven't changed at all. And in general, from what I can see, the imagery is pretty similar to the RWS. I mean, again, like the Four of Wands, it's a slightly different image than we're used to seeing. And I think this image has very, very different meanings and connotations to the image that we're used to seeing. Excuse me if you can hear me sniffling. I'm actually full of cold at the moment because it's December and I'm always full of cold in December. So I'm a bit sniffly. So again, the Nine of Wands, I'm not really used to seeing other people in the Nine of Wands. It's normally just the one person and the 9 wands. One, you know, but... And then the one thing that they have done differently in this deck is that they have the princess, prince, queen and king instead of the page and the knight. I do apologise if you heard my stomach then. That was very loud. Clearly I need to go in search of some food when I am finished here. And the court cards are really simple. They are just a person holding the image of the suit by the looks of things. And the aces are pretty simple. They're just the suit resting on this like window frame thing. See, again, completely different. Like, just by adding a fourth person, a fourth woman into this card, and man, and basically a relationship and a woman that looks pregnant, I think it completely changes the meaning of the Three of Cups and how I would normally read the Three of Cups. And this one, the focus is on the 2 upright cups instead of the spilt cups, which is different than what we would normally see in the 5 of Cups. And there's, excuse me, an extra person in this card. Excuse me. Seven of Cups looks more like the Seven of Swords and the Seven of Cups to me. Say yes again. Courts are just, oh, for God's sake, 4 people. Different meaning again. Interesting choice for the 3 of Swords there. And the 4 of Swords, very different than what you would expect. I hope you can still see these okay. The lighting's gone a bit weird. The 9 of Swords looks a bit like the 8 of Swords. Right, so that's the 8 of Swords. And that's the 9 of Swords. So their major arcana seems to be really, really similar to what you would expect. I didn't seem to have as much in the major arcana that kind of made me go, huh? What? Wait, that doesn't look right. Whereas the minor seems to have had some very random, strange changes that, to me, make a difference to the way that card is probably read. Again, I would read this card very differently from how I would normally read the 4 of Pentacles. I don't know. I don't know about that at all. So that's just my overview of these cards. I wouldn't say it's my first impressions because I've owned these cards for like 13 years, but it's my, you know, having never worked with the deck and having never read through the guidebook, it is kind of my initial impressions based purely on the imagery of the cards. Next year at some point, I'm not sure which month yet, but 1 month early next year, I will work with this deck for a month and see what it's like to read with, and then I will come back and do, I mean, I probably won't do a whole separate video, but in my roundup for that month, I will talk about how it reads and how I got on with it, and, you know, how I felt the guidebook did or didn't help with the connection with the card. So I will come back to this at some point in the future when I've worked with it. Does anybody else out there have this deck? That is what I want to know. Does anybody else have this deck? Is anybody else aware of this deck? Is it a deck that people like? Is it a deck that people have no interest in? And that's probably why it's kind of died a death and gone out of print and doesn't seem to be very well known. Talk to me about this deck. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? Drop me a comment as always. Let's have a conversation. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care and lots of love. Bye bye.